over Florida today. Penn State versus Michigan today. I'm taking Michigan. I told you guys I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I like what Michigan's got going on. CU played them tough last week right up until their quarterback got hurt and went out. And who knows how that game would have gone. Maybe that shows that CU is making a little bit more of a comeback, has a little bit more confidence. Maybe it exposed Michigan a little bit for not being really the number, 4 team in the country they're ranked. We'll have to see. Penn State's definitely a different monster than CU is. This is a Big Ten matchup. There's a lot of history involved in this matchup. Guys play hard in this matchup. DC3PO has Michigan with an 81.4% chance of winning and a score of 31-18. I really like that score. I think that's about what we're looking at in this game. But who knows? With Big Ten games, just like any other conference game on any other level, it could go either way. It really could. Pitt's playing North Carolina today. DC3PO gives Pitt a 53.7% chance of beating North Carolina. 30-28 is the score that they have. I agree. I think that'll be a nice close game. BYU's playing West Virginia with a 60.5% chance of winning with a score of 24-20. Last week's darling, Louisville and Lamar Jackson, causing all the hype. It's fun to see people run around in the open field, no matter what level of football you play. I get the excitement about it. I get how bad they made Florida State look. The Florida State Seminoles. Nobody's ever scored 63 points on Florida State. Blah, 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 blah. Well, this is a different team. Mentally, they proved they weren't strong enough to do anything to come back. The coaches didn't make any adjustments that the players responded to. And they went out and they got beat. This is not the same Florida State team. You can't hold the mystique of the team from the past up against today's players. It's not the same team. These guys proved that it's not them. So, not to, take away what Louisville did, but they played against a team that gave up about halfway through the second quarter and then came back out in the third quarter and really didn't try hard. Didn't play well on the offense or defensive line. Didn't play well on the back end. Didn't block. Didn't, get open on their routes. So, yes, Louisville looked exciting. They looked flashy in the open field. They had the big plays. But expect them today against this game against Marshall, who's kind of had their number. And they don't play all that often, but when they do, the school has kind of had their number. It's a game Marshall rises for. It's a game they get up for. They're in the same area. I do expect Louisville to pull it out today. It will be a huge shock for Marshall to win today, but expect it to be much closer than last week's 63-20 blowout of the Florida State Seminoles, for sure. DC3PO has Louisville with a 90.9% chance of winning this game and a score of 35-13. Big game tonight, another Pac-12 game. Stanford again with Christian McCaffrey taking on UCLA. This week Jim Moore came out and said Christian McCaffrey is the best college football player in the game. Former NFL coach, could be playing mind games there. But number 7 Stanford versus UCLA. DC3PO has a 76.2% chance that Stanford pulls this one out with a score of 34-23. Honestly, I like the score quite a bit. Again, it's a divisional game. It's a Pac-12 game. These are two teams that have played each other close for the most part over the last several years. But expect Christian McCaffrey to go off again tonight. It might be a, as they call it, Heisman-type game against UCLA. I think the reason UCLA talked about him this week is because they're truly worried about what they're going to be able to do to stop him this week. I've said it before and I'll say it again. In my opinion, he is the best football player in college football. He may not have all the dazzling highlights that a Lamar Jackson's going to have this year because of the competition. Quite frankly, sure, he did it against Florida State, but like I said, Florida State quit. They quit on that game. They were not mentally tough, and they just went through the motions. You're not going to see that in any game Christian McCaffrey plays in. I don't know that I'd have to check the schedule to be sure, but I don't think Stanford has any like Kent State type teams on their schedule. So he's going to play better competition, and he's still going to put up amazing numbers. He most likely won't have as many open field highlights as a Lamar Jackson, but that doesn't mean Lamar Jackson is a better college football player. It really doesn't. A competition level, and I heard D-Mac talking to Big Al about this week, and I agreed with him. It is something to say about the competition you're playing. And Big Al said, "It's Florida State. They were number 2. They were number 2." Well, they were number 2, but they proved they didn't deserve to be number 2. As amazing and electrifying as Lamar Jackson played, Florida State played equally as bad and had nothing going for them. So look for Stanford, number 7 Stanford, to pull out the win today. CU going another long road trip, playing Oregon today. Cephalosha probably does not play today. That easily gives Oregon a big chance of winning the game for sure. And DC3PO gives Oregon a 98.5% chance of winning this game and a score of 46-14. Unfortunately, CU, I think this is the week where you come back down to earth a little bit. You played a good, quarter and a half until Cephalosha got hurt last week in Michigan, and then the game got away from you. But this week, don't expect it to be close, I don't think. And finally, wrapping it up, we'll get in Chris's team. LSU. They play Auburn tonight. LSU number 18 right now. Auburn unranked. We'll see if they start the kid John Franklin, the third from the transfer from EMCC, Last Chance U. He's got a lot as far as the wheels go. John Franklin does. He can really run the ball, and he can sling it. He's got some zip on his pass. Thing is, he's not consistent. He doesn't have any touch, and the accuracy is not there. He's an athletic kid, but as far as a quarterback, I don't know. I really don't know. I got to see more from him. We'll see what Auburn does how they use him tonight, if they use him tonight. But DC3PO has LSU with an 81% chance of winning this game and a score of 32-18. I don't know if Auburn's going to be able to contain Leonard Fournette tonight. I expect him to go off for 150 plus. And we'll just have to see how it goes. Again, this is another SEC, a divisional matchup, so those things really could go either way. All right, those are the games that we're going to cover for today. When we come back from the break, we will be talking about the big ticket.
Hey guys, the NFL is back. It's time to win some cash playing fantasy football. TheDirtCannon.com is a local company that has your back. They have produced over 60% winners on FanDuel, DraftKings, and now even Yahoo. TheDirtCannon.com will help you build, play, and win. Build a better team with TheDirtCannon.com. Use promo code RDST and get $5 off forever. And try the Silver membership this week for free. Visit TheDirtCannon.com.
Definitely go out there and check out thedirtcannon.com. They got a lot of good things going on. They're helping a lot of people win a lot of money. And they got interesting articles and things to read too. Just big things. I appreciate their partnership. That is thedirtcannon.com. And I hope the guys there, are out there having fun, enjoying their conferences and whatever they got going on around the country this week. They will be back with us, of course, next week. Jeremy on Wednesdays, Chris on Saturdays, breaking down both NFL and college football. Big story came down. This is something we talked about a few weeks ago when Duncan retired, and shortly after when Kobe's season wrapped up. And it's finally happened. The Minnesota Timberwolves and Kevin Garnett at the age of 40 have worked out a deal, a buyout of his contract, and he has announced his retirement. So the big ticket, the show is over for the big ticket. And what a career he had. Played in Minnesota, played in Boston, played in Brooklyn, played back in Minnesota again, and was just one of those guys you knew was going to give it everything when he was out on the court. He was intense. He was dirty. He was nasty. I don't mean he was dirty like he did stuff to people. I just mean he was willing to do it. He was willing to put in that work. And you saw it. You saw it when he was screaming and when he was flexing and when he would, not take a play off, foul call, ball in the air. It's not going in the hoop. Nobody blocked more shots after the whistle than Kevin Garnett. And if they kept that stat, he'd be number one in the league, I'm sure. He wasn't letting no shot go in the rim so that you could see it and mentally get into a rhythm. Because that's what a shooter needs. If a shooter goes ahead and takes that shot after the foul is called, he's trying to get in rhythm. He's trying to visually see that go in, so next time he comes down the floor, boom, muscle memory, muscle memory. Kevin Garnett wouldn't give that up. Didn't matter if he was shooting, if you tried to do a layup, or if you tried to dunk after the whistle, he was going to block your shot. He'd even go up through the hoop to block your shot. It's after the whistle, doesn't matter. I would have liked to see Kevin Garnett play more live. I did get to see him play, not very often, of course. It would have been cool if somehow he ended up being a Nugget at some point. That's the type of guy the Nuggets need to figure out how to bring into town for sure. Garnett's one of two players now to lead the teams that they played for in points, assists, and rebounds. The other, of course, is Michael Jordan. Nobody would have guessed somebody else, I'm sure. Michael Jordan is basketball. I'm not the biggest Michael Jordan fan. So, that's cool. Kevin Garnett leads the Timberwolves in both points, all three categories, points, assists, and rebounds. He's the highest career earnings maker in the NBA history. Made $326,304,204 in his career. And that came down to about $223,190 per game. I would take it. I would take it. Interesting stat that came out after he announced his retirement. Kevin Garnett spent 7,759 days of his life in the NBA. Okay? So over 7,700 days of his life in the NBA. He had less than 7,000 days of his life before he entered the NBA. Because as we all know, Kevin Garnett came in 95, right? He was one of those guys who really started, pumping the high school straight to NBA idea. And making it look like these high school kids could all make the jump. Now, unfortunately, the fad hurt a lot of players because they're not Kevin Garnett's. They weren't Kobe Bryant's. They weren't LeBron James. They weren't Moses Malone. They were just guys that wanted to get rich playing basketball. And then they didn't go to college because you can't play amateur athletics after you've been paid. And who knows where some of those guys are. I mean, look at Eddie Curry. Eddie Curry, if he'd gone to college instead of coming to the NBA, might still be playing. He might have had a good career instead of a career. Right? But Kevin Garnett was kind of one of those guys that put it in everybody's head, look what these high school kids can do if we give them a chance. So it's pretty interesting that he spent almost 800 more days in the NBA so far in his life than he had outside of the NBA. That's quite impressive because outside of the NBA he's at 6,979 days. And again, in the NBA, it's 7,759. So 60% of his life, 55% of his life, something like that, has been in the NBA. That's amazing. It's hard to imagine that he was in the NBA for 20 seasons, 20 years, 21 years, whatever it came out to. And he will be going to the Hall of Fame. And his Hall of Fame class will surpass this year's Hall of Fame class that had Shaquille O'Neal, Allen Iverson, and Yao Ming. because he'll be going in with Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan. And that trio